Good evening. Welcome to the April 9th meeting of the Yakima School Board. There is additional seating in the professional library if you'd rather not stand. I know some people like to be closer to the action, so feel free to do whichever pleases you. The professional library is down the hall at that end of the building. There's a sign right there. Before we begin, we offer Spanish interpretation services from Jorge with Language Connection. If you need it's not Jorge tonight. And you tell me your name. Mariví
Vázquez.
Vázquez. Okay. If you need translation assistance in person, please check with Mariví. For a device, would you please translate that information for our audience?
Tenemos servicio de traducción, intérprete, y si ustedes necesitan tenemos los radios acá atrás, pueden venir y yo les doy uno para que puedan escuchar la reunión en español. Gracias.
Gracias por tu ayuda. We do provide live streaming for the meeting. The link can be found on our webpage under Board of Directors or by going directly to www.ysd7.org/board meetings. If you wish to make a public comment this evening, there are two options available for you. The first option is for commenting on agenda items only, and the second option, which comes toward the end of the meeting, is for all other topics. In order to speak tonight, you will need to sign two forms, a sign-in form and the guidelines form, and please read the guidelines form carefully. If you're interested in watching past meetings, you can find them on our webpage's YSD YouTube channel. Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Here.
Director Navarro?
Here.
I'm going to borrow. Director Rice? Here. Vice President Villanueva? Here. President Walker?
Here. Would we all rise, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready to begin? Thank you. And now our YSD students will present us with the Yakima Land Acknowledgement.
Today, the schools of the Yakima School District rest on the ancestral lands of the 14 confederated tribes and bands of the Yakima Nation.
Hoy las escuelas del Distrito Escolar de Yakima descansan en las tierras ancestrales de las 14 tribus y bandas confederadas de la nación Yakima.
The people of the Yakima Nation inhabited more than 12 million acres.
La gente de la nación Yakima habitó más de 10 billones de acres.
Across Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Franklin, Grant, Kittitas, Klickitat, and Yakima counties.
En los condados de Adams, Benton, Chelan, Douglas, Grant, Franklin, Kittitas, Klickitat, y Yakima.
Today we honor those native peoples who are tied to the land through history, legends, and culture.
Hoy honramos a estos pueblos originales que están vinculados en la tierra a través de historias, leyendas y culturas.
We acknowledge our descendants who live in the world today.
Reconocemos a sus descendientes que viven en el mundo de hoy.
We thank the caretakers of this land who have lived here and continue to live here since time immemorial.
Agradezcamos a los guardianes de la tierra, quienes han vivido aquí y continúan viviendo aquí, desde tiempos inmemoriales.
An acknowledgement is a simple, powerful way to show respect.
Un reconocimiento es una manera simple y poderosa de mostrar respeto.
And a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase indigenous peoples' history and culture.
Y un paso hacia la corrección de las historias y prácticas que borran la historia y la cultura de los pueblos indígenas.
It also honors the truth. También honra la verdad.
As a school district, we will continue to build upon our relations with the Yakima Nation.
Como distrito escolar, continuaremos fortaleciendo nuestras relaciones con la nación Yakima.
Thank you. We're privileged this evening to acknowledge winter sports and some winter extracurricular activities at both Davis and Eisenhower High Schools. We have a number of students whose names we will read. When you hear your name, please come forward and you'll circle around through the horseshoe here. We'd like to shake your hand and present you with a certificate. And at the end of all the presentations, you can take a picture in front of the board here if you'd like to do so, or a team picture, or however you want to do that. So there'll be an opportunity for your family to take your picture. So we'll begin with winter sports from Davis High School. Director Becker.
Thank you, Norm. Good evening, everyone. We have four teams to recognize, four members from four teams here to recognize tonight. All the first page of these are all from Davis. So let's have a collective Go Pirates to get that out of the way. 1, 2, 3, Go Pirates. Thank you for your cooperation. First team, All League, Big Nine, All League Conference Honors for boys basketball. Eli Juarez is the boys basketball head coach. We have Finnegan Anderson and Blake Garza. If they're making their way through, that's fine. They can come on up. First team, All League, Big Nine, All League Conference Honors for girls basketball. Akel White, girls basketball head coach. We have Esmeralda Galindo, Cheyenne Hull, and Isa Garcia. First team, All League, Big Nine, All League Conference Honors for boys wrestling. Juan Lopez is the boys wrestling head coach. Isai Perez, Jacob Alcala, and Miguel Galvez Regoza. We have first team All League, Big Nine, All League Conference Honors for girls wrestling. Eric Rotundo is the girls wrestling head coach. We have Gracie Pham, Carla Arce, Rihanna Chavez, Jonastia Jackson, and Sawyer Newman. We have some individual recognitions as well. I'll read 7 of these, so hold your applause, please, till we get to the end. Jacob Alcala was named Big Nine Player of the Year for boys wrestling. Jonastia Jackson was named Big Nine Player of the Year for girls wrestling. Cheyenne Hull was named Big Nine Defensive Player of the Year. Blake Garza was named Big Nine Defensive Player of the Year. Cesar Hernandez was named Big Nine Player of the Year. Esmeralda Galindo was named First Team Girls Basketball Defense Player. And Finnegan Anderson was named first team boys basketball defense player. Let's hear it for our Pirates. Come back up. Exactly. Run the gauntlet one more time. Barb let me know that we do have coaches in the building. So as I mentioned earlier, if our boys basketball coach Eli Juarez would like to come up, Akil White, the girls basketball head coach, Juan Lopez, our boys wrestling head coach, and Eric Rotundo, our girls wrestling head coach, we'd love to have you up too, please.
Okay, the next group of student athletes is, looks like all Davis students still. Okay, 4A State Boys Wrestling, coached by Juan Lopez. 6th place at 138 pounds, Jacob Alcala, Davis High School. Fifth place, 120 pounds, Noe Martinez. Third place, 132 pounds, Isai Perez. Congratulations. For A, WIAA State Girls Wrestling, coached by Eric Rotundo. Second place at 100 pounds, Savannah Espinoza. Third place at 170 pounds, Shanastasia Jackson. And first place at 100 pounds, Gracie Pham. Congratulations. The next group, 4A, WIAA State Girls Basketball, coached by Akil White. Third place for girls basketball varsity team. These are girls from Davis High School. And I'll read all their names and then we'll clap at the end. Avery Brandt, Ella Craig, Esmeralda Galindo, Isa Garcia. If you're here, please come up. Paige Gasling, Jada Hernandez, Cheyenne Hall, Leilani Johnson, and Isabel Rosas. Begin. 4A WIAA State Boys Basketball, coached by Eli Juarez. 5th place for the boys basketball varsity team. Again, I'll read all the names. Quentin Allen Greggs, Finnegan Anderson, Andrew Cheek, Blake Garza, Tice Hayden, Cesar Hernandez, Braden Lee, Tyson Lee. I'm sorry, that's Brandon Lee. Lance McGee, Beckham Murphy, Phoenix Sanchez, and Nate Stevenson. You're representing all, huh?
So it's my pleasure to continue the allocates for our students and for the WIAA State Basketball Tournament. First, we have Cesar Hernandez, was named the 4A WIAA State Basketball All Tournament Team's second team All League. Congratulations. Was second team selection All League for the 4A WIAA State Basketball All Tournament Teams is Cheyenne Hall. Selected for first team All League 4A WIAA State Basketball All Tournament Teams is Merelda Galindo. Congratulations. Congratulations again. And also, Esmeralda Galindo was named the 4A Senior All-State Game leading scorer for a team with 22 points. Congratulations to Esmeralda. Big Nine coaching awards. So for Davis, assistant coach for wrestling, Enrique Lopez was named the Big Nine Coach of the Year. Yes. And Davis head coach for girls basketball, Akil White, was named honorary head coach for the 4A WIAA All-State team. And Davis head coach for the boys basketball team, Eli Juarez, named Big Nine Coach of the Year. And Davis head coach for girls wrestling, Mr. Eric Rotundo, named Big Nine Coach of the Year. That's amazing. 4 head coaches of the year for the Yakima School District. That's pretty awesome for Davis High School. For winter sports, Eisenhower High School, second team All-League, Big Nine All-League Conference honors Boys basketball, Coach Nikhil Lazat. The following students were recognized: Lucas Stevens from Eisenhower High School. And Amir Mitchell, Eisenhower High School. Congratulations. Second team All-League, Big Nine All-League Conference Honors, girls basketball. Eisenhower High School head coach Ray Harris, and that's Ayana Gallegos. If you forgot the part of the gauntlet. There we go. Oh, it came back. Congratulations. Good job. So this next name I'm going to probably mess up. So hopefully the person is here so they can correct me. So second team All-League, Big Nine All-League Conference Honors, girls bowling, head coach Chad Quisnell, and the student is Nakili Tabayuyan. Thank you. All right. Eisenhower High School. And for Eisenhower High School Winter Sports, second team All-League, Big Nine All-League Conference Honors, boys wrestling, head coach Jared Dobie, and the following students have been recognized: Victor Mejia, and Kanan Gutierrez. Congratulations. If any of the coaches are here today, if you'd like to come forward as well, we'd like to recognize you. Come on up. Okay, we got away from him. Thank you.
Next up, we have first team All-League, Big Nine All-League Conference Honors in girls wrestling, Justin Hastings, the girls wrestling head coach, Miranda Marquez, Eisenhower High School. In second team All-League, Big Nine All-League Conference Honors in girls wrestling, coached by Justin Hastings, Andrea Ramirez Garcia, Edith Benitez, and Aliza Gutierrez. Now we move to the music side of things and winter extracurricular activities. From Davis High School, participating in the orchestra, Washington Music Educators Association All-State Orchestra. Lead teacher Scott Goranson is Angel Vargas. Davis High School was selected to be part of the All-State High School Orchestra. Goranson. The next grouping I'll read as a group. When you hear your name, come on up, but I'll just read continuously. This is for band, Yakima Valley Music Educators Association Regional Solo and Ensemble Contest for winds, bass, and percussion, directed by Brian Beck. First place in solo clarinet, Juan Pineda. First place in solo alto saxophone, David Rochat. Or Rochat, I don't know how to say it. Second place in solo alto saxophone, Adriana Martinez Acevedo. First place in solo baritone sax, Oscar Gutierrez. Congratulations. First place in solo bassoon, Leonardo del Pilar Manjarez. First place in solo trumpet, Juan Ferreira. First place in solo trombone, Zahid Romero Ramirez. First place in solo euphonium, Josue Sanchez Badillo. Second place in solo tuba, Jacob Dove. Second place in solo snare drum, Jaden Alonso. There are also several ensembles that placed at the Music Educators Conference. The Davis High School Trombone Duet received second place in small ensembles for brass. The Davis High School Trombone Duet 1 received third place. Davis High School Trombone Choir received second place in large brass ensembles. Davis High School Saxophone Quartet received second place in small woodwinds small ensembles, and Davis High School Ensemble 1 received first place in large percussion ensembles. Again. Congratulations to all our musicians from Davis.
And it's my pleasure to continue the celebration here. Jazz and Percussion Mead Jazz Festival, band director for Jazz and Percussion, Sam Howard. First place in Trumpet Soloist Award, Mauricio Rodriguez, Davis High School. First place in Trombone Soloist Award, Robert Briceño, Davis High School. And first place in Saxophone Soloist Award, David Rochat, Davis High School. Davis Jazz Band also received third place in the 4A division at the Mead Jazz Festival. And band director Sam Howard is welcome to come up as well. Next, we have Orchestra Yakima Valley Solo Ensemble lead teacher Tim Rooney. First place in solo violin, Lilian Gu, Eisenhower High School. First place in solo piano, Lilian Gu, Eisenhower High School. First place in solo cello, Amaya Jimenez, Eisenhower High School. Third place in small string ensemble, Amaya Jimenez and Danielle Niblet, Eisenhower High School. The next three are, looks like group awards. Eisenhower Concert Orchestra received a superior rating 1 at the Yakima Valley Orchestra adjudication. Eisenhower Chamber Orchestra received a superior rating 1+ at the Yakima Valley Orchestra adjudication. And Eisenhower Symphonic Orchestra received a superior rating 1+ at the Yakima Valley Orchestra adjudication. And lead teacher Tim Rooney certainly want to celebrate you as well. Next, we have choir regional solo ensemble, lead teacher Laurel Cashmitter. Third place in tenor voice, Seth Wilson from Eisenhower. And second place in treble voice, small ensemble, Arissa Flinkfeld and Richie Lara, both from Eisenhower. Eisenhower large ensemble also placed second at regional solo ensemble, and Eisenhower Lancers received a superior rating at the Yakima Valley Choir adjudication. And teacher Laurel Cashmitter, please come up if you're here as well.
Oh, okay. Moving on to speech and debate, lead teacher Brittany Lewis. The Cascade Challenge, first place in original oratory, Luana Long from Eisenhower. From the Riverhawk Invitational, first place in humorous interpretation, Adriana Parker from Eisenhower. Congratulations. Wonderful. First place in dual interpretation, Annika Yoki from Eisenhower. Congratulations. First place in dual interpretation, Muskan Devranji from Eisenhower. And first place in program oral interpretation, Elisa Sadowski. From the Clash in Wenatchee, second place in congressional debate, Mariah Cornejo from Eisenhower. Congratulations. First place in editorial commentary, also Mariah Cornejo from Eisenhower. Second place in dual interpretation, Annika Yoki, Eisenhower. Second place in dual interpretation, Muskan Devranji, Eisenhower. First place in program oral interpretation, Elisa Sadowski, Eisenhower. And first place in Lincoln Douglas debate, Aileen Parazi Bravo from Eisenhower. The online outing 2023, first place in congressional debate, Mariah Cornejo, Eisenhower. Congratulations. First place in editorial commentary, Lillian Gu Eisenhower. Second place in editorial commentary, Martha Kostner Eisenhower. From the Ephrata Fall Kickoff, and let's do this quickly. The rest of these are all from Eisenhower again. Can we have a go, cadets? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. That makes this cadet heart proud to be able to follow up with that one. From the Ephrata Fall Kickoff, first place in editorial comment. That's it. Yes, editorial commentary, Lillian Gu. Third place in editorial commentary, Martha Kestner. First place in impromptu speaking, Island Perazzi Bravo. Third place in Lincoln Douglas debate, Island Perazzi Bravo. Congratulations. From the Toppenish Talkathon, first place in dual interpretation, Annika Yoki Eisenhower. Said that. First place in dual interpretation, Muskan Devranji. And first place in program oral interpretation, Elisa Sadowski.
Next, we have the Big Nine Winter NECA IBEW Award winners. The National Electric Contractors Association, NECA, and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, are proud to present the 20th annual recognition of these fine scholar athletes from the four Big Nine high schools. In our case, two Big Nine high schools. These organizations are training electricians for the future. NECA and IBEW encourage all high school students to explore, with their high school counselors, a career in the electrical construction industry, which provides salary levels that are above average and careers that last a lifetime. The following Yakima School District students were recognized for demonstrating superior balance in academics, athletics, and community involvement. From Davis High School, Gracie Pham. And Nathan Stevenson. And from Eisenhower High School, Viviana Armijo. And Amir Mitchell.
That concludes our honors and recognitions for the evening. We're going to take a 5-minute break. So families and students that want to take a picture in front of the wall here or take a picture of your group, we'll take 5 minutes. And also, once you've completed that process, you're certainly welcome to stay for the business meeting, but you're welcome to go in case you have homework to do or to practice your instrument or work on your embouchure and your bowing. So good luck to all of you. Thank you. We'd like to call our meeting back to order. What fun to celebrate all those accomplishments. It's very difficult. Some people think the music thing is just a stat. It's very difficult to get an all-state honor in music or get a superior rating. It's really, really hard work. Those kids put in a lot of hours, and they put in as many or more hours as the athletes do, who put in a lot of hours as well. Okay, next up we have 2 proclamations. We have recognition for assistant principals and mental health week proclamation. Barb, do we have an assignment? Okay, Raymond? Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes, it's my pleasure to read the proclamation for Mental Health Week, May 6th through 10th, 2024. Excuse me. Whereas each year, millions of Americans face the reality of living with a mental health condition, and 1 in 6 U.S. youth age 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year, but mental health illness affects everyone directly and indirectly through family, friends, or acquaintances. And whereas this week serves as an opportunity for a dedicated time for mental health advocacy, raise mental health illness excuse me, awareness, provide resources, and promote initiatives that support mental health wellness among students, faculty, and staff. And whereas this week is dedicated to asking more questions, being more present, and educating ourselves and others on the importance of mental health. And whereas by shedding a light on mental health, we break negative stigma, promote dialogue that can help build a culture of understanding and acceptance within our school communities. And whereas inclusive learning environments for students and hire and train more mental health professionals for schools, which is where students are most likely to receive those crucial services. And now, excuse me, therefore, let it be resolved as the Yakima School District Board of Directors, we proclaim that the Yakima School District recognizes the first week of May 2024 as Mental Health Week and commit to prioritizing the mental health and well-being of our students and creating a safe and supportive environment where all students can thrive academically, emotionally, and socially. We must continue the conversation and extend our sympathy to those in need. Dated this 9th day of April, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Navarro. Next up, Director Villanueva will read the assistant principal's recognition.
National Assistant Principals Week, April 1 to 5, 2024. Whereas assistant principals serve as visionary stewards of education entrusted with the well-being and development of our students, and whereas assistant principals collaborate seamlessly with school leadership and teaching staff to uphold and advance rigorous educational standards, and whereas assistant principals exemplify leadership, serving as role models for students to emulate and aspire towards, and whereas assistant principals undertake a myriad of responsibilities, including discipline, coaching, teaching, encouragement, enlightenment, engagement, counseling, and empowerment. And whereas the observance of National Assistant Principals Week serves to honor the dedicated P to 12 assistant principals and underscore the pivotal role of school leadership in ensuring equitable access to education for all students. Now, therefore, the Board of Directors hereby declares our appreciation to the assistant principals of the Yakima School District and proclaim the week of April 1st to 5th, 2024 to be National Assistant Principals Week, and encourages all citizens to join in acknowledging the unwavering dedication and tireless efforts of assistant principals in preparing today's students for the challenges of tomorrow. Dated this 9th day of April, 2024.
Thank you. Next up, we have updates from members of the board. Do we have any updates? Director Rice.
I just want to let everyone know that the proposal window for legislative proposals has closed. That closed last night. And the WASDA Legislative Committee will be sifting through those next weekend, not this coming, but the weekend after. So then we'll have a sense for what the proposals are that are coming forward from the membership. Also, I took part in a mini pilot for a WASDA training, and it's about disparities in education. It's going to be a really strong workshop, and I hope that board members will be able to take advantage of it when those start to come around. I think that's it.
Thank you. I will provide an update on the National School Board Association Annual Conference, but I'll do that at a later meeting in interest of time for this meeting. Dr. Green, Superintendent's update.
Thank you, President Walker and members of the board. I too will keep my comments concise this evening. We have a couple of things to mention and share with our community. One is that the Hoover Elementary was recognized as a U.S. Apples for Ed winner, which has to do with food service and nutrition. And they were awarded $5,000. So I'm excited to share that information with you. As well, there was a superintendent's WASA OSPI roundtable meeting of which Mr. Cooper and I were asked to be a part, and that was a learning opportunity across the state that was well attended, and we appreciated that invitation at the request of OSPI and Washington Association of School Administrators. And then the last item that I would share with you is the roundtable meeting that we did have today. I am actually a part of Superintendent Chris Reichdahl's roundtable group of select superintendents across the state. And we have been meeting over Zoom for quite some time. And he and his staff reached out about holding 3 sessions in person across the state. And we hosted the first session today. So Chris Reichdahl was with us for probably around 5 hours this afternoon. And we had superintendents attending from Spokane, Vancouver area, north of Seattle. In total, well over 20 superintendents represented. Smallest size was around 800, up to some significantly larger groups. And it was a wonderful opportunity to have some say and some influence and feedback for the state superintendent of public instruction and his staff as well. One of the common themes that did come up across the system is the funding model for education. So as you can imagine, with what we're facing here with some reductions, some staff reductions, and that same reverberations happening across the state, it was interesting to hear what is happening in other districts and hear from superintendents sharing with Mr. Reichdahl the issues of decreased enrollment, increased cost, and recognizing that the business of operating a school district does not match the funding, and therefore it has some significant challenges. And there was no resolution as of today, but there's a commitment to continue to then go through build upon the first meeting with the second 2, and come up with more of a cohesive agenda for the legislature here moving forward. So it was a nice time to certainly get together with other leaders across the system. And as you can imagine, just the smaller districts, just as an ancillary comment, we have some districts facing greater budgetary challenges, but at a smaller number. So for example, Mabton was the smallest district represented, and they're absorbing $1 million, or they have to make reductions to make sure that they cover that cost. Washougal was looking at $3 million, and then Freeman is a small district outside of Spokane that was actually reaching out and saying to Mr. Reichdahl that they appreciated that we were getting some coverage on what is happening across the state, because in some of the smaller districts, there's a sentiment that they're being overlooked because of their size, and that their budgetary issues with a smaller number, even though percentage-wise it's more of their operating budget than it is ours. And they felt like the impact that's happening here in our district will help more people across the state recognize that this is not an isolated issue, an isolated challenge. So with that, I'll just go ahead and turn the time back over to you, President Walker, and thank you for allowing me time this update.
Thank you. Next up, we have Assistant Superintendent Murrietta talking about the RIF and recall process.
Thank you. I'd like to invite the HR directors, both the classified and certificated, Kim Newell and Chris Miller, to please join me. So I'm going to repeat things that we already should know by now based on what has happened, but it's just for the record. And that is that program reductions and reduction in forces are guided by RCWs, WACs, and our collective bargaining agreements. We have labor partners and we have longstanding relationships with them for a reason. And that is because when things such as this happen, there is a process that has been bargained. I cannot take credit for that bargaining. This has happened over many years. We have a mature agreement. And because of that, first we go into the legality of having to bring this before you as a board and having you ultimately make the decision of how and why we must do this. And then we begin into our process. And quite frankly, everybody, I think, understands what the reduction of force process is, but not everybody understands. So this is about us trying to update you and our employees about what does it mean to recall and how we will follow all of our collective bargaining agreements. We have 10 separate collective bargaining agreements as well as non-represented employees of the district. And so not every contract is the same. But we have been and we will continue to work with our labor partners to ensure that we follow this process so that those employees which are impacted will then begin to start to be recalled and how they get placed and how they find continuous employment. So with that, I really would like to take this opportunity, and you all know that I am a retired union rep. I'm not saying this just because I was a union representative for so many years. It is our labor partners who we work with to determine these steps so that it is orderly, so that it is fair. And the thing that you get when you have a union contract that you don't get elsewhere is we won't be faced with discrimination cases. We won't be faced with lawsuits or other legal proceedings, because we have reached an agreement before this ever took place. And so it is all fair. It has all been voted by their members as well as you as the board. And there's a lot of insulation as to all of us as an organization. The hardest part is now that the RIF has been announced, the anxiety that employees feel while they are waiting to be recalled and not knowing if they're going to be recalled. And we have known about this since July when Jake's first preliminary budget went into effect. You had some very hard questions for us dating back as far as July, and we have been working to mitigate this to the very best of our ability. And so with that, I do not want to take credit for all the hard work that our directors have been doing and working with the unions. And I do want to say that I appreciate the labor relations and the relationship we have with all of our employees, and we will continue to work hard to ensure everybody has a safe place. So with that, I will turn it over to our directors, Kim Newell and Chris Miller.
All right, thank you, Anthony, for that introduction. President Walker, members of the board, we would like to thank you for having us here tonight so we can go through this process with you. Chris and I teamed together on both the certificated side and the classified side to have a streamlined process. As Anthony said, I am Kim Newell. I'm the Director of HR for certificated staff.
And I'm Chris Miller, Director of HR for classified staff.
And before we get started tonight, Chris and I really wanted to take a moment to thank a few groups who have partnered with us through this process. For the certificated side, I personally want to thank John Kavanaugh and Duff DeWitt. They have been huge partners through this process. We have worked together as a team, an HR team and a labor partner team, to make sure we were clear on language, make sure we followed the CBA. And I really appreciated the effort that both of them put forward to team with us through this process. And it truly is a team process. I'd also like to thank our principal and directors. If a few of them are here today, they also partnered with our HR team to deliver letters to staff. And we really wanted them to know how much we've appreciated all of their hard work through this process.
And similarly, I'd like to echo the same comments on the classified side, starting with administration, principals, and directors. It's not easy giving and delivering a message that you weren't necessarily the decision maker on. And all the feedback that Kim and I received was those conversations were held with a level of compassion and understanding that only those individuals that work with that direct line of staff every day could do. So we really appreciate our principals and directors that are here today. Additionally, calling out, there's 8 different classified bargaining contracts plus non-represented employees. And in particular, there's some individuals that I had to partner with over this course of this year to prepare for this process. We have Margaret DeLong and Natalie Tinajero from YPTA, Jeanette Tejeda, Nikki Navarro, and Candy Stubblefield from YAOP, Christine Lewis and Tiffany Moritz from YAP, and then our non-represented group, Angela Jestrom and Lance Sandage, who help represent those non-represented employees. I know it's a bit of an oxymoron, but they do a lot of work in advocating for that group of people. So to those individuals that are here tonight, thank you so much for your work and support. And I know we'll continue to work together on this.
All right, so tonight, 4 learning targets for everybody. Before you leave tonight, we hope you have a better understanding of 4 things. Number 1, what is recall and the recall process? We'd like to go over and review the certificated process and the status of where we're at with the recall, review the classified process and the status of where we're at with classified. And then the last thing is the supports that HR has in place for our employees that have been impacted through this process.
Perfect. So as Superintendent Murrietta mentioned, there are 2 parts to a reduction in force. The first is widely known and understood, the layoff, which is a process that was implemented and executed 2 weeks ago when staff were either notified their position was eliminated and they would have a position in the district or another position in the district next year, or staff members that may, and let me repeat that, may, and we'll get to why I'm saying may in a second, not have a position next year. The second part is recall. Recall is a part of the reduction in force process by which staff are laid off or brought back to work. This process is guided by the applicable collective bargaining agreements and takes seniority and our qualifications into account. This process takes a lot of work and moving parts to execute, which is why our partnership and collaboration with labor partners has been, and continues to be so vital. What we want to ensure staff and community understands is that we, that is HR, administration, cabinet, and the board of directors understands that a reduction in force has a significant impact on staff, their families, students, and the community. From the time that the preliminary budget was presented last July and continuing since its adoption, the Human Resources team, with the support of the superintendent and cabinet, have been working in collaboration with our labor partners to mitigate the impact of a reduction in force for staff and their families. This work included clarifying and ensuring a common understanding of the collective bargaining agreement, language, and process, how to communicate this to staff, and additionally compiling and preparing resources for staff. We understand that these steps mitigate, but do not eliminate the stress and anxiety a reduction in force has on the organization, in particular our staff and our families. But we are committed to continuing this process and steps to mitigate as much as we can. With that being said, getting into what the actual process is, 2 weeks ago, impacted YST employees received one of 2 notices. First was employees that their position was eliminated, and the second was an employee was ripped, which means a couple different things depending on whether you're certified or classified.
So for the certified side, the RIF notifications are strictly by seniority. It does not matter what you teach. It does not matter what type of certification you hold. We have a reduction in force seniority list that goes by the number of years that people have been in the profession.
And then for the classified staff, these employees were given this notice if their position was eliminated and they did not possess the seniority and or qualifications to take another position occupied by a less senior employee, or due to them being displaced so a more senior employee could take that position, sometimes referred to as bumping. So the exact process, there's a similar overarching steps that we take for both certificated and classified. And then depending on the agreement, there's some nuances. The first step for either certificated or classified that begins the recall process is identifying or confirming an open position. This could be done via either attrition, retirement, resignation, or other form of separation. It could also hold. And then, train of thought, sorry. Through attrition. Another reason might be there might be a funding source or a need that comes up, such as an IEP that gets assigned that requires services for a student. Once a vacancy is confirmed via our position control process, which we have developed further and expanded upon this year to include creating an electronic system that was created actually in-house by our IT department, which helps ensure that every position is reviewed thoroughly on how it impacts student learning and what we can do to make sure the funding source is confirmed prior. Once that's confirmed, then we move on to the next step.
So step 2, the employee will then be notified of the position that is open, and based on the CBA, this may include factors such as seniority, qualifications, previous positions held. For the certificated side, we start with the RIF list, the seniority list that I was just talking about, and we go in reverse order, and we start with that person with the most seniority on that has been RIF'd, and we start offering positions, and I'll get into more detail of that in a minute.
Next, once the employee receives notification that there is a position that they may take, then they have the opportunity to choose to accept that position or not. And it has different implications. Timelines on how we notify them. Most of our CBAs call out mail and sometimes a phone call. We reach out to them, notify the position, and they usually have a certain number of days to respond or report to work. All that is outlined in the applicable CBA depending on which employee group or type that individual is in.
Step 4, then, depending on the employee's decision and which CBA they fall under, they are placed into a position, or they may remain on the recall list, or then they forfeit their right of recall and are removed from the recall list. For the certificated side, they are offered a position as close as possible to what they currently hold. They will have they may decline, they'll have a second opportunity. If they decline their second opportunity, then we go to C and they forfeit their right of recall and are removed from the recall list. They will have two opportunities for positions. So continuing with the certificated recall process. So we started this on March 26th. The RIF notification and position elimination letters were all delivered to impacted staff. And so just clarification, the position elimination, they still have a job in the district, just not in their current position. On the 27th, employees who received the RIF letters, they had the opportunity to attend an informational meeting where the recall process and additional resources for support were explained. And again, this is a huge thank you to our labor partners. Duff and John were with Chantel and I at that meeting, and they went through that process with all of their members. On that day, we also started what is called the in-building voluntary transfer process. We wanted to get that started immediately because all of those positions are open for 3 days. And so those positions are anything that has been a retirement, a resignation, or anybody that was on the RIF list, those are all now open in building for 3 days. Anybody that had a position eliminated, they have the opportunity to take any of those positions. And so that was the first step on March 27th, and we ended that 3 days later, so right before spring break. So then on March 29th, we again worked with our labor partners and identified some of our hard to fill positions. And we recalled 2 school nurses, 2 school psychologists, and 2 speech language pathologists, again, due to their certification and hard to fill status. So pretty much anybody else on that RIF list, they don't have those certifications. And so they would not have that opportunity to be called back to those positions. After spring break, so the week of April 8th, we Monday started round 2 of the in-building voluntary transfer process. So after round 1, let's say a 4th grade teacher in that building decided they wanted to take a 2nd grade position. Maybe there was a retirement there, or potentially one of the RIF positions. They have that per the CBA, they have that opportunity to take that position. So now we have that 4th grade position that we have to open for 3 days for anybody in the building to then take that position. So that's the part of this process that we have 3 days for each of those to make sure we follow our CBA language on that. So that 2nd round will close on April 10th, which is this Wednesday. As soon as we are done with the in-building voluntary transfer process across all of our buildings, we will then open up any of the remaining building positions to what is called the unassigned pool. So anybody that potentially were in a building that did not have open positions due to RIF or due to retirements, they went into the unassigned pool. So they'll have the opportunity to look at all of the positions that are now still open in these buildings. And we have a process Chantel will send out, and she'll list all of the positions. And everybody has an opportunity to list their number 1, 2, and 3 choices. And they have 3 days to do that. And then once we get all of that, we start sorting out where people will be placed. And then once employees in the unassigned pool have been placed, we will then begin the official recall process out of the RIF pool. Any YEA represented employees working in the bargaining unit who have been RIF'd and who do not have an FTE position at the start of the 24-25 school year, they will have the opportunity to sub in positions for which they're qualified before any other subs are called. And again, this is part of our CBA. And in your documents, you do have Mr. Murrietta put together this document. You should have that copy in there, but it talks about the CBA language and how we will offer anybody that does not have a full-time FTE a position as a sub in our buildings, and they'll be called before any other sub is called. And then the last part of that is something that we added in as a district. And again, thanks to Anthony on this piece of that. For any laid off employees who make themselves available to work from the first day of school through September, we will make the SEB, so our insurance payment on the employee's behalf. Under SEB, if there's an expectation of continued employment, SEB benefits shall continue.
And Kim, thank you. That was on behalf of the superintendent, the cabinet, and every finance and everybody else. It was just an advocation coming out of our HR office. So I want to make sure the credit goes to the team, not me.
All right, so similarly, we started the classified process the same week as certificated, but we offset it a couple of days. That way we had enough time to focus on one group at a time as a system. Again, we have 8 different classified collective bargaining agreements that we're responsible for implementing. When we'll get into the impact by group here shortly, But again, YPTA, YEOP, YAP, and OSG, it's our paras, protecs, secretaries, and non-represented groups. The leadership in those groups really helped identify parts in this process and communicate and mitigate as much as we could even before we gave layoff letters. One difference in the classified group compared to the certificated is if there was somebody who has possessed specialized skills or qualifications such as a certificate, and they were less in seniority, we did not have to give them a notice, which is different than the language in the certificated agreement. So we were able to reduce the overall impact of the system for classified employees within our various bargaining units. On March 28th, we specifically noted notifications were delivered to impacted staff. And then in our para contract, and also an MOU that we had signed this year earlier with that leadership, there's a budget reduction and transfer process. And I'll get a little bit more into that later. But that calls for allowing displaced paras by program, by building. So maybe it's LAP at a specific school, or maybe it's a TVIP, which is our ELL support para. Maybe that was the reduced one by a program at a specific building site. Recognizing that there's an impact to those individuals and they often like to stay, if they can, at their building where they have colleagues, coworkers, and students that they've supported and grown accustomed to. Those individuals have first right to open positions within their building. So we started that in-building process for paraeducators the very same day that they got the notice if there were any openings in building for them. Good, Barb. On March 29th, RIF staff were provided an opportunity to attend an informational meeting similar to CERTS on Wednesday, where the recall process and additional resources were explained. And that afternoon, the YEOP and YPTA, that's our secretary and ProTech pool process for those whose position was eliminated, but they had seniority. We began those processes that afternoon for each of those groups. The idea was to get that information as soon to them as possible before spring break, so they could take some time and think about what their options were, what positions they had, and we can start that as soon as possible. This week, the week of April 8th, that YPTA and YEOP, again, our ProTech and Office Professional Group pool process is still continuing. We're looking at placements, preferences, what those folks who had some seniority, what their choices are, and starting to find where their placements may be for next year. And that's going to continue until we complete that process. And for our YAP, our paraeducator group, the in-building process has been completed. Right now, we're compiling the list of still individuals who are displaced, either because they didn't have an in-building position to choose from, or they chose to opt for the pool as they didn't want or didn't qualify for the position that was in building. Once we confirm that list, and then we confirm the vacancies that we still have, we'll begin the district pool process. Our goal is to start that on Friday this week. And then we will continue that process with our paraeducators as well as our other groups and confirm once that process is completed, particularly in our para group. One thing that it's on a slide later, but what I want to share is we have more openings within our para group than we do have individuals displaced. So we will have positions to post and still some recruitment to do. Those positions, after being offered to the individuals that were displaced, then need to be posted for the entire bargaining unit to take an opportunity to apply for. After that, then we can look at external out of the bargaining unit employees, at which point we'll give preference and screening to those who are qualified from other bargaining units that are displaced.
Okay, so we wanted to share just some of the numbers that we are currently working with, and on the certificated side, Chantal Heffington and myself, we have a system to work through all of these numbers. We have 10 assistant principals that received notification. Of those 10, 8 have secured alternate placements here in the district, and 2 have secured principal positions outside of our district. We had 138 YEA employees who received the RIF notification. We also had 62.5 eliminated certificated positions. So that's what we're currently working on right now, are those certificated eliminated positions, having them with that in-building transfer process, they are choosing positions. They have some of the RIF positions that they can choose from, as well as the next bullet, we had 41 resignations and retirements that have been submitted so far. And then we, as I stated earlier, have already recalled 6 of our hard to fill certified positions.
Classified attrition and certificated attrition are a little bit different. Typically, you see attrition on the certificated side happening at the end of the school year when contracts are up. Classified, being non-contracted or having a signed contract, there's attrition that happens all year, every year. And it happens throughout the year, not just at the end. When the preliminary budget was announced in July, we as a district immediately began to review open positions as they happened, determine whether or not they should be held or not, which mitigated impact overall when it came to the actual RIF or reduction that was voted on 2 weeks ago and implemented. So in our custodial group, the numbers I'm going to give you are the numbers that are currently staffed by group that are on the recall list. These are the people that currently don't have a placement. In our custodial group, it's 0. Reductions were executed through attrition. And I'm actually at this point anticipating needing to post a couple of positions based on the staffing allocation and the number of individuals that have left. Maintenance, 0 as well. Again, reductions were executed through attrition and not filling positions. In our OSG group, we currently have 1 on a recall list. For our para educators, 0. Again, as I shared, there are more para openings than there are displaced paras. Beginning partway through the year, we began holding positions and filling them with long-term subs, recognizing that a reduction was coming up. So again, to offset the impact, we chose to fill those with temporary employees so that people would have a position to go into or slide into in the event their position was eliminated. Another point where some of those openings are, we're continuing to mitigate the utilization of contracted services. Those have been utilized primarily as a stopgap this year between when the IEP is signed versus when we can actually fill the position. We'll be continuing to mitigate and reduce and hopefully eliminate the need to use contracted services in the future. In our ProTech group, I currently have 20 people on the recall list. And then office professionals, we have 1. Again, in our office group, we had some attrition in the year and we ended up being able to fill those through long-term subs or make do without at the moment temporarily in the short term. And that ended up resulting in just 1 person not having a job in the pool right now. But again, we're in March, April now. Sorry, it's been a week. We're in April now, and we still have quite a ways to go before the start of the next school year. And we haven't hit our typical attrition number anyway at this point in the year. In the para world right now, we're working on confirming that list. The last that when I was looking at it earlier today, we had potentially over a dozen positions to post in our para world. So that plus a couple custodial positions, we're looking at probably about 15 positions to post just offhand before the end of the year. And those, again, will give preference to those individuals that are displaced or on the recall list and other classified groups that are qualified.
And our last target that we wanted to make sure we covered is just the support that we're providing for our impacted staff. And this goes back to just having that collaboration again with our labor partners. Really working early on, we started working, I would say in December, on communication and language clarification, making sure we were following the CBA, making sure we understood and we were clear on that language. Ensuring there was a common understanding of how the language was in each contract and how it would be implemented. And that was a huge piece for the certificated side, is just collaborating with our labor partners with that particular piece.
Something that we also have for staff is an employee assistance program. This was put in January of 2020, was put into place. Our EAP program is provided through the Department of Enterprise Services, and they specialize primarily in serving and providing this resource for public entities such as school districts and government agencies. all of our staff that are with us qualify for 3 free mental health counseling sessions per incident per year, as well as any adult household family member as well. They also have access to financial advising, where they can speak to a financial advisor. People won't do their taxes, but there's budget sheets and information there. There's also free legal consultation, and then a website filled with tons of resources that span all sorts of services, from pet sitter, taking care of parents, parenting, work-life, career change balances. So this resource has been communicated with every letter that went out to staff that were impacted. They received a flyer with this information and how to connect with it, as well as this was presented at the support meetings on March 27th and 29th. Another resource as well is we reached out to a local entity called WorkSource. We had a representative from the South Central Workforce Council on unemployment and People for People. At the Wednesday the 27th meeting, it was just a quick brief introduction of who they are and that they'll be around to support. And at the Friday meeting, they provided more detail. They were able to go over with staff, and they provide this free for any organization that goes through reductions. They talk about unemployment. They talk about impacts to insurance and who, when you qualify for Apple Health or the state insurance program. Our dislocated worker specialist from People for People spoke about a grant that the state has where individuals who are laid off qualify for a free quarter of tuition in college, including the cost of materials and supplies. There was also information provided specifically about unemployment, how it's calculated, the fastest way to apply, when they should apply. There's a lot of information to be given in just a short session, and we plan on having them back, particularly as we work through the recall process and identify those individuals that may not, in fact, land with the position or based on if they decline other opportunities.
The other supports, providing the informational meetings for both the certificated and the classified. After they received their notifications, we had our labor partners going through the recall process. We had our payroll with benefits explained. We had question and answer time for them as well. And then the last piece is just the support, training, and talking points we provided to our administrators who had to deliver the letters to the impacted employees. It's not something that they are trained on to do every day. So we provided them time and talking points and things to consider that should also be uploaded into your documents that you can take a look at. And so that was our final piece, so that our principals could deliver these messages in a way that would have minimal impact on our employees. And so finally, before we have any questions, just a final thank you again to our labor partners, John and Duff, our administrators, as well as our teachers who are here today. I know this is not an easy process, and I just want to thank you guys for continuing to show up every day for kids. It really is appreciated.
And a couple more final thoughts too. One, just to reiterate that the steps that we've taken all this year to mitigate the impact overall. Again, the Royal We recognize that impact just mitigates, it does not eliminate. But we are committed to continue the partnerships that we have and to try and support staff in the end. We are fairly confident based on the numbers that we shared with you today that if somebody wants the opportunity to work, there will be an opportunity to work next school year. Now that just might not be in the capacity that they were in, but that is one of the ways that we can help support staff during this time. And even if they decline that opportunity, our goal is to provide those other resources, EAP, WorkSource, to help them find what, or at least give them the information they need to make the right decision for them and their families. So thank you again to our labor partners and the board cabinet for having us. We really appreciate it. And any questions, Kim and I are here, and Anthony as well to answer now.
Any questions on the board or HR folks?
Is the 3-day window for the in-building voluntary transfer process, is that a time frame that's dictated from our bargaining agreements, or is that a time frame that's dictated by state law?
It is in our bargaining agreement.
I would like to just elaborate on that a little bit. Initially, it was 10 days. And because there's steps, that 10 days would take this out much farther. So again, we had to reach a memorandum of understanding which modified the agreement to allow it to go at a shorter window, which then gave an opportunity to get quicker to the RIF employees now starting to be reassigned to new positions. So the hardest part is you receive that letter, a person's first inclination is, I'm out of a job and I'm going to be laid off. What it generally means is the position is now not available to them, and we have to go into the next reassignment so they can land in a new place. What you also saw was there was the 62 and a half eliminated positions, and how many employees have currently already retired or resigned. And just as we've had those other positions, this process does happen every year. It usually starts later in May. We started it early because we knew that we would have to get through that and allow the time in order to get to the RIF so that the RIF reassignment can take place and the employee would know that they have a job or a new position prior to next year. What's so important to say is that as we start next year, what you will see is truly a reduction of force with less positions within the district. You should recognize all the faces though, as we have the turning over of people who have left and new people who would backfill those positions. We can't do all of that without first going through this entire process. So this is very painstaking. And again, I want to make it very clear. We know how difficult this whole process is. That is nothing compared to the person who received the letter. We know that they are stressed. We know that there is anxiety that goes with this. And we have been working diligently to ensure that everybody has a place to land. Now, the reality of it is one is too many. But people were asking, how did this happen? Or how come we haven't done anything? What we have been doing as an entire system is behind the scenes preparing for this. And again, as I stated at the beginning of my introduction, we will avoid all kinds of legal issues and problems because over the years we have reached an agreement and it is in our collective bargaining agreement or what we refer to as CBA. So these processes are already agreed to. And the hardest part is most of the employees who receive this are some of our newest employees who are also unfamiliar with the process. So there are a lot of moving parts, and we are committed to working with everybody to ensure that it is mitigated.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board?
It's really, it's a clarifying question and more for the viewing audience than probably for the people in this room. When you talk about transfers and people in new positions, that's effective in September, right? It's not like next week they're going to be in a new classroom.
We'll clarify that it's the start of the new work year. So we do have some staff that start prior to September.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for this information too. It's really helpful information for us to have at the front of our mind.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks for a very thorough and clarifies a lot of things for us. Thank you. At this time, we provide calendar updates. Kirsten, do you have a few highlights for us?
Thank you, President Walker. On April 12th, the 50-year Yamate Japanese will welcome 80 Japanese visitors at a banquet at 3 p.m. at Davis. On April 14th, which is this Sunday, the Davis and Eisenhower Jazz Bands will perform at Eisenhower High School Auditorium at 5:30. On Tuesday, April 16th, there will be a parent-family engagement event featuring the Japanese Cultural Showcase at Eisenhower from 4 to 7 p.m. On April 18th, 19th, 20th, and 27th, the high school musical will be at Davis High School as their spring play. It will show at 7 p.m. in the evening and then also on Saturday, the 20th at 2 p.m. On April 25th, there will be the Excellence in Education Staff Awards event at Ike Auditorium at 5 p.m. And lastly, on April 30th, there will be the second annual Voices writing contest at Eisenhower at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. I'll now trust the board to just check your board documents for any other events going on at schools. Always the athletic and other kinds of events going on. Thanks so much.
Director Walker?
Yes.
While we have Kirsten here up front, could we ask her to just give us an update on FAQ and answered questions from our last board meeting?
Certainly. Thank you for that opportunity, Superintendent Green. We did want everyone to know from a lot of the questions that have come in from our community over the last 2 weeks that we did update the budget FAQ, which is on our website. You can find that from going to Find It Fast, type in budget, and there will be a lot of questions that have been answered. We're also happy to say that although there were a lot of questions that came in over the last 2 weeks, as of today, we have completed all of our answers personally back to every person who asked a question. So if for some reason you feel your questions did not get answered or something has triggered an additional question, please go to our website or contact anybody here at the district. You can also call the phone number 509-581-5250, and we'll be sure to get you a response right away.
Thank you. We've now arrived at the time for comments from the public on agenda items. I trust that you have read the document on the protocols for comment. You'll have 3 minutes. We have a number of commenters this evening. So if your comment is simply repeating what somebody else has said, you might consider foregoing a comment or dittoing the comment just in the interest of time. But we want everyone that wants to be heard to be heard. I'd also like to just make a brief statement myself. I'd like to remind everyone in this room that everyone here is born with inherent worth. And so let's please treat everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of our thoughts or opinions about events. And remember that we are all here because we want what's best for our students within our means to provide it. So first up, we have Elise Parse from Eisenhower High School.
A little short here. Okay. My name is Elise Parse, and I'm a school counselor at Eisenhower High School. This is my first year at the high school level. Last year I was working at HERA. I was RIFT, and I'm not sure if I have a job next year. There's only one school counseling position open in the Valley, and I was the last one hired for the Yakima School District. So I'm the last one we called. It makes it difficult coming into work, knowing that I love my job and that I want to be at Ike and that I do amazing work. Yet that does not seem to matter. The fact is that I and many others may not have jobs next year because we're paying for someone's mismanagement of funds. The district says that they didn't see this coming, yet enrollment has been decreasing since 2018, and as we just all found out, this was apparent in July. The district says that low enrollment has to do with declining birth rates, yet Yakima population is growing. The district says they want all students biliterate by graduation, yet they adopt a policy that exits ESL students regardless if they know English or not. The district makes a presentation saying the levy pays for 6 school counseling positions, then cuts 6 school counseling positions for the next year. The district says they care about students' mental health, then cuts a school counselor from each middle school and high school where the need is highest. The district says that the school will be well-staffed next year despite cuts, yet classes in at least the high schools have overloads this year. I need help making this make sense. Students are looking for a genuine connection to an adult. Students come to me daily for one or more of the following reasons: suicidal ideation, sexual assault, friendship and relationship troubles, anxiety, depression, academics, gangs, bullying, things happening at home, abuse and shootings, and many other reasons every day. I see up to probably 10 people a day, 10 kids, okay? The fact that YSD has riffed so many of the people that work directly with students has caused harm to the community already. Families are finding out that they don't have to choose the YSD. And I really wonder if this riff and the school board's response and the superintendent's response will deter more parents from the YSD. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Next up, we have Travis Freimeyer.
Born and raised in Yakima, my life has been deeply intertwined in the Yakima School District. Thank you, Ms. Law at Eisenhower, shaping me into the individual and an educator I am today. My dedication and to serve our community led me to pursue a teaching degree and work towards becoming bilingual, recognizing the critical need and connect with our critical need to connect and sorry, I'm very nervous today. Need to connect with and support our diverse student population. This commitment wasn't taken lightly. In my efforts towards becoming a dual language teacher, I have poured my life savings into a 3-month immersion program in Costa Rica, a significant personal and financial sacrifice made in the hopes of better serving our students. Following this immersion experience, I continue to dedicate myself with hundreds of hours of online classes for the past 3 years, all to ensure I can communicate effectively with and teach our bilingual students. At Adams Elementary, I found more than a job. I found a purpose and a family. Initiatives like Tie Tuesday were born out of the desire to instill confidence and pride in our students, many of whom face cultural and economic barriers. These efforts were part of a larger goal to cultivate a sense of community and belonging within our school walls, an endeavor that has become my passion. However, the district's decision to rip 138 teachers, surpassing the initially announced 62.5 positions by a considerable margin, and cast a shadow over this commitment. This action not only jeopardizes the financial stability and professional futures of those affected, including myself, but also threatens the very culture of care and support we've worked tirelessly to build at Adams Elementary. The investment I've made in becoming a bilingual educator and working so hard at it for our district, both financially in Costa Rica and throughout the years of dedicated study, underscores my dedication to our community. It's disheartening to see how such commitment potentially undervalued due to the board's broad staffing cuts. When I left the last board meeting, I only felt like a number. Despite the hardship of being rifted, my administrators at Adams Elementary upheld dignity, kindness, and love, transforming a tough moment into one where I felt valued far beyond just a number. I felt like an Adams bulldog. Today, I stand before you, not just as a concerned educator facing personal uncertainty, but as an advocate for the nurturing environment we've worked so hard to create at Adams Elementary. I urge you to reconsider the extent of these ripping decisions, bearing in mind the long-term impact on our schools, our students, and the fabric of our community.
Thank you. Valerie Williams from Eisenhower.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Williams. I'm a guidance specialist at Eisenhower High School and a very proud 11-year member of the Yakima Pro Tech Association. Like many employees of YSD, I am disheartened at the recent position cuts and rifts that have happened to our district. I'm especially concerned about these decisions that have done to my union. It was announced 2 weeks ago that you eliminated 30 YPTA positions and ripped about 25 additional members. Currently, there are only 139 pro-techs working in our district. So 40% of my union were told they most likely will not have a job next year. And for those members that were eliminated with seniority, at least some 18, 20 years experience, will only have positions that were vastly different than the previous ones that they had. We are constantly concerned with mental health of the students, but I want to take a minute to talk about the mental health of my fellow union members. Several of the members that were included in this giant job cut have been through this experience 3 years in a row. I cannot imagine the stress involved with finding out your job has been eliminated. And now, if you want to stay working in the district, you take another job, you train, you learn all year, you make new friends, student connections, only to be told later that you'll have to repeat this process in a different position. And now they're being told to do that again. The YPTA union members are beginning to feel targeted by their employer. We have faced at least 50 position eliminations over the past 3 years. Yes, new positions have been created, but due to the nature of many of the positions in our union, many displaced members do not possess the necessary credentials or experience needed to qualify for the new positions. The other major concern is the type of positions that were eliminated. Do you all even know what those jobs entail? I'm guessing not, considering many of them directly involve increasing, retaining students, which equal to money for the district. For instance, special ed family support specialists, their job is to recruit preschool students with special needs and complete the necessary paperwork for admission. Who's going to do that job now? You talk about decreased enrollment as one of the major concerns or causes of predicament. Yet you cut valuable positions at the high school level that serve the sole purpose of retaining students, like a retention specialist, transition specialist, and migrant advocate. Many YPTA members work closely with students and sometimes are the only connections keeping at-risk students in attendance. The health assistant that gives them twice daily medication. The family liaison that discreetly gives them food and clean clothes because a student is living at a motel. The migrant advocate who has helped them assimilate to school. These are not nameless positions. They're
Thank you. Irene Smith from KA Virtual.
Thinking of a quote. I'm Irene Smith from K Virtual. I currently teach English and history. I'm just thinking of this quote. They may forget what you said, you might even forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And I think that we're hearing what people are feeling. I appreciate those who have worked really hard to mitigate and make this less painful than it is. Our school, Yakima K Virtual, serves just under 200 students, but it keeps growing. We serve kindergartners through 8th grade, and we have the best attendance in the district. Partly because our kids are all at home and we are calling them all the time, and we can sometimes catch them at home, but our goal is to catch them, and we just keep calling and we just keep trying to get them on Google Meets, and we just keep working until we get them. Our building is kind of obliquely under discussion today. So I thought you might want to know a little bit about what happens in our building on 39th Avenue. You should know that elementary children and families come in person to K8 Virtual. Not all the time. Mostly they're working from home, but we have children coming in. They come in as needed because we are their teachers. We're not case managers who just check in on them. We are their teachers. Learning at home on your own is difficult when you're a child. Some parents are equipped to help and some are not. Most of our families and students struggle. That's why they're there. They struggle with health. Might be physical health, We have kids in the hospital. We have family members in the hospital. It might be mental health. That's a really common one in our building. And our family liaison for Protect helps us to be able to meet the needs of our homeless students. We have many students with mental and emotional struggles who have chosen to homeschool or to stay home and learn through K-8 virtual. There's a lot of behaviors that bring students to our schools. We've actually had some schools in the district encourage students to please go learn from home because it's not safe having you here in our school. Socially, we have kids who are bullied. They don't want to be in the school anymore. They can't change to a different school in the district. Oh, I'm done. Sorry.
Thank you, Irene. Suki Covell.
My name is Suki Covell. I teach first grade at McClure Elementary. I'm here on behalf of a teammate who is too shocked and hurt to speak. I would like to share how the RIF has affected our school. Approximately 25% of our staff was RIFed. McClure students will be the one who suffer as a result of this happening. Students will suffer from diminished educational experiences when our class sizes increase next year. Students will suffer when the one trusted adult they come to for help no longer works at McClure. Students will suffer when the quality of instruction will decline. This quality of instruction will be most apparent for our dual language students. Dual language is supposedly a top priority for the Yakima School District. At McClure, dual language is moving to second grade next year. Both of our dual language kinder teachers, one of our dual language first grade teachers, and one of our second grade dual language teachers were terminated. This means McClure has lost over half of our dual language teachers. Yakima had these teachers attend special dual language training. My understanding is these positions can now be filled by teachers who are bilingual and have had no dual language training. This is a disservice to our dual language students because the loss of these teachers disrupts the continuity of their education, affecting both student morale and academic progress. At first grade, we will be losing 2 teachers. One has survived 2 first years back to back. Last year, she was a new first-year teacher. This year was her first year of dual language. She has poured her heart and soul into the dual language program. Her reward for this commitment is being fired. Her fresh perspective and new ideas will be sorely missed. The other teacher is being displaced to another grade. Due to the RIF, budget shortfalls, as well as a retirement, first grade will be losing 3 of 5 teachers. This will impact continuity of instruction and morale for both students and teachers. I would like to end with a quote from Abraham Lincoln. "The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here." Thank you.
Kelly Cliff Gilbert.
My name's Kelly Clift, and I'm speaking today as a YSD teacher, but also a parent, a grandparent of YSD students. And I'm speaking today not to advocate as a teacher, although I do have strong opinions about what's happening. I am instead advocating for our kids. When the voters of Yakima approved the levy this spring, they did so with the intent that the money would be invested in educating the children of Yakima. They did so with the assumption that their dollars would keep those class sizes low, offer programs needed for well-rounded education to prepare students for college and the workplace, to provide enrichment opportunities, to make an investment on our future. My question to the school board is, what is your plan to rebuild the trust of the Yakima voters who believe that you would invest their money to enhance those educational opportunities to Yakima's youth. This leads me to share with you my experience. Although I am new to Yakima, I have taught for 35 years. And unfortunately, in my career, this will be the third time that I've worked for a district that was facing severe budget cuts. And I have seen firsthand how it affects students. When we first cut, we hope that this is just a reduction for a couple of years until the budget gets righted. But unfortunately, in the wake of substantial budget cuts, it takes the toll much longer than a fiscal year. Sure, after a couple of years, my former district started to rebuild programs that were cut, but the damage was done to the trust of the community, and more important, it had long-term effects on our children. Suffering from big class sizes, limited resources, stifled opportunities, the academic growth and achievement became stagnant for our at-risk populations. Despite a change in administration, the community no longer trusted the school to be good stewards of this investment, and it prompted a double levy failure, compounding the issue. It took many years and a Herculean effort to rebuild the trust and to regain the partnership. My hope is that Yakima can avoid similar consequences for our kids, which brings me back to my original question. What is your plan to minimize not only the short-term, but the long-term effects on students? And how do you plan to rebuild that trust for the Yakima community? Unfortunately, it looks as though cuts must be made. So make them in areas that don't directly impact students. The building level is where students are. The classroom is where the students learn. This is the very reason that school districts exist, is to serve our students. These programs must be fully staffed and funded. If cuts must be made, then cuts should happen at the levels that do not directly work with students. Perhaps with administration, the program directors, TOSAs, whatever.
Thank you. Donovan Barnhart from Davis.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that up. All right, my name is Donovan Barnhart. I'm a second-year math teacher at Davis High School. I was hired a year ago in 2022-23. I've taught bridge to college math, honors geometry, algebra 1, and I've also helped coach the cross-country and track team at Davis. When Yakima announced that they were laying off the 138 certificated staff, I dealt with this a year previously because the year prior, Davis had to make cuts. And so a year ago, I was on that list of people that was told, you're not going to likely have a job. Thankfully, through attrition, I was able to get brought back. So I wasn't all that shocked when I looked at the numbers and was like, I'm going to be on that list again, aren't I? So I wasn't prepared. I mean, I was prepared for myself to be there, but what really got me was the gravity of the fact that it had to be so public because I, along with 137 other people, were put on that list as well. None of us were hired with the contingency that we would likely be leaving so shortly after we all got hired. And I can speak as a firsthand witness that so many of the young employees that I've worked with here absolutely pour ourselves day in and day out into the job and are driven by the success we see in our classes and the people in the lives that we have a chance to influence. For example, in this room, I have a good friend named Emily Burkhart who I went to college with, who works as a CTE science teacher at Davis. She got hired last year, and she offers a type of education nobody else can, a CTE STEM type of type of experience for our kids. And as of right now, given the uniqueness of her job, there's going to be a very difficult opportunity for her to even have to get back into teaching. She will likely have to change career fields after this. I think about a good friend of mine, Trenda Ackley, who worked very hard to become a young physical education department teacher, which is very hard to get into, and it might take her years to get back into that realm. And actually, I really think about Sandra Martinez at Washington Middle School. Any Washington Middle School people out there? She's been there for years, working as a para and as a migrant advocate. She just got her teaching certificate last year after years of barriers, and she raised a family in between it, and suddenly she doesn't have a job to come back to next year. And it just feels so sick to me, and it feels really wrong that such a large number of our employees are being unsettled as a result of this. And the data has shown for years that enrollment's been dropping considerably and consistently for the past 4 years. And it's a trend not unique to Yakima. And as you've mentioned, this is something we've seen across the state. So while dropping enrollment isn't something we can always control, to me, the hard part is, and as much as I respect everyone up here, there's been virtually no public accountability taken for the short-sightedness of what happened. We have a very substantial budget. And I do not doubt the intentions of all the people up here, all the people on the board, the superintendent. But getting that letter really made me doubt the integrity of the board. It really made me doubt the integrity of the superintendent. Because the data has shown that the enrollment in our district has dropped considerably and consistently for the past 4 years. And I don't know, the district boasts its commitment to student voice and the Student Voice Council. I know you guys are sitting up here as the Student Voice Council. And I think last week when I saw the students in these videos from news at Eisenhower scattering across the street, there was just, to me, that was the most intense version of student voice we could have heard. Kids were angry and frustrated and let down.
Thank you. Emily Burkhart from Davis. Please, I need to remind our speakers you are limited to 3 minutes. So we've been kind of patient, allowing you to go on longer, but please keep your comments to 3 minutes. There are many people waiting to present.
Thank you. I practice, so hopefully it'll be 3. To the board and Superintendent Green, who I've already seen today. My name is Emily Burkhart, as you've heard. I teach a brand new CTE environmental science class at Davis High School. I commute 45 minutes every day from Ellensburg, and I have a 45-minute drive home tonight. But financially, I'm just a number. I'm number 178 of 182. That's 5 up on the list, but one of them has passed away. So it's really 1,081. I'm a first-year teacher who was asked to apply for this position at Davis. Previously, I worked in the environmental science industry. I worked for Department of Fish and Wildlife, and I worked for a nonprofit fisheries organization. I loved working outside, but I felt like my experience and my passion would be best shared with our next generation of stewards that we see here. Over the past 9 months, I've created a class from scratch, nothing, weaving together my industry experience, my scientific content, to give students real skills, those CTE skills, that they can put on a resume and be hired with. I knew that I would be in the current RIF position due to my conditional certificate. However, I was not prepared for my brand new program that was hired for in July to be completely abandoned by Davis as a result of these budget cuts. This includes the lesson plans I developed, $20,000 of new industry equipment, which will go unused, and the excitement of my students who have signed up for my class next year. I'm ready and excited to learn about the outdoors. Since I graduated college, I've held part-time and seasonal positions, weary about how to pay my rent and how to pay my groceries when it comes to the end of my position. I wanted to be a teacher, not only for the kids, but I thought the profession was stable. I thought I could have the security of lasting benefits that didn't expire every year. Now I'm once again feeling that anxiety, as you can hear in my voice, for the years ahead, unsure if teaching is a safe profession to continue in. At the start of the school year, the district gave us these shirts. I see one here today. It's titled Somos Uno, or We Are One. However, from the decisions made by the board 2 weeks ago, this is far from true. Our district is fractured. The trust and safety of our bright careers has been broken. We doubt the leadership in this district and doubt the decisions made were unavoidable. As a district that prides itself on equity, it crosses me to know that outdoor experiences will not be available at Davis next year. It's a shame that students won't get career opportunities. It's a shame to tell my students that the district failed to keep some of their favorite teachers, the young teachers that are here who came straight from their education, who wanted to be here, who were recruited, asked to apply. From 178, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Justin Nicholas.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. This is tough. My name is Justin Nicholas. I'm a teacher at Washington Middle School. I'm a firefighter for West Valley Fire Department. I'm an EMT. This is one of the hardest things I've had to go through. Genuinely. I wrote some stuff. I was been reading it all night, and I just couldn't bring myself to talk about it. I think I speak for everyone here when I say the betrayal that we feel is palpable. It's disappointing to have to look people like Jake and Trevor in the eyes and see malice. You've smirked multiple times at the people speaking here tonight. I feel disgusted. I really hope you five look at the people you choose to hire and make some better decisions, not just for the community, but for the people here who devote their lives to this work. Thank you.
Francis Guerrero, Eisner.
The next few people you're going to hear from are YEA leadership speaking on behalf of those that struggle to speak, as you've seen several times. Today I'm speaking for Madeline Wedge. My name is Madeline Wedge. I'm a first grade teacher. I am number 1033 on the seniority list, but my students call me Mrs. Wedge. I am more than just a number to them. On Tuesday, March 26th, I had to get up and go to work, knowing that I was going to be signing my risk letter. I also knew that before I signed my letter, I needed to let my students know what was going on, just in case I couldn't compose myself enough to teach math 30 minutes after receiving this letter. Can you imagine being told that you are no longer have a job and that you will probably never see your kids again after this year? I know none of you sitting on this board have ever been in my classroom, which is a shame because it's truly a special place. Over the summer, my mom, Grammy, my student teacher mentor, and my first grade teacher came to my classroom to help me create a welcoming environment for my students. Since the rift, my fourth graders have watched me take down and put away things that have made our classroom their home away from home because the school district doesn't have enough money to keep me. The district speaks to building relationships with students, but after this year, I will not get to watch my amazing fourth graders become fifth graders. My students have become part of my life, and I have become part of theirs. I got married in November of 2023, and all of my students were so excited that they had a giant card made for me when I came back on Monday. They have come to love my two dogs, Maisie, a black lab, and Chloe, a golden retriever. They know about my Grammy. They know that I am moving to a new house soon. They notice when I get my nails done or when I get my hair done. I have gone to their dance performances outside of school. I'd play with them at recess, and I made sugar eggs with them, just like my mom has done for the last 26 years in her classroom. As a first-year teacher, I was excited to begin this journey, but you have made me feel unworthy and useless. Trevor Green, you came to my school this winter to tell my school how important it was that this levy passed and that you would try to keep as many teachers as possible. Seeing how everything has played out, I will never trust you or anyone on the school board again.
Dr. Witt, Eisenhower.
Just as Franny mentioned, I'm going to read some words from a teacher who was not able to attend today. She writes, "My story starts in the fall of the year 2020. I was a student teacher candidate who had to postpone graduation and student teaching due to COVID. I was placed at one of the high schools, and an amazing group of people helped me learn a new way of teaching, something that had never been prepared for in college because COVID changed the way that everything happened. But I saw that change coming from COVID and adapted. I did not create an excuse as to why something was to happen. I found a way and I pushed through. I spent the last 3 years working and making connections with students, building teammates in my department, becoming a leader and a role model for my students. I teach, I cover classes when needed, all while volunteering my first year as a coach. After 1 year, I became an official coach at both the middle school and the high school, committed to the Yakima School District and to my students since the moment I got here. But you see, all of this is now being taken away from me because the Yakima School District was not committed to me. I'm not from Yakima. 3 years ago, I moved over 200 miles away from my family and friends for this job without knowing anyone but my mentor teacher. No support system, no family, no friends. Just a 24-year-old at the time who knew that they wanted to teach. Packed up my life and I moved to an unfamiliar place with $35,000 in student loan debt. Then my world was rocked on March 26, 2024. I knew the meeting was coming, and when I got the call, I managed to stay calm. I went to my meeting, I signed the papers, and I left. I had to take a few days to get myself back together. I was not expecting what would happen next when I returned to my classroom on March 28th. Students poured into my room in tears. All I could say was that things are going to be okay. I was lying. Things are not going to be okay. What is happening here is the people who work with me, with these kids every single day, are paying the price for the poor mishandling of funds by people who have not taught or connected with students in years. And you want to take us, the teachers, who might be the only constant in a child's life, out of the classroom. What you're doing to me by taking my job away is making it so now I will probably have to leave this life that I've built behind. Leave behind the friends and coworkers, my students, my athletes, my family that I've created here in Yakima, making me again move to be able to continue to stay in the profession that I love, to be able to pay back my student loan debt. But the only debt you seem to care about is the debt that you made because of the poor financial decisions, not even a financial decision to better your own education for these students' education. Now us, the people who interact with the students every day, are paying the price, not you. You choose to save money at the cost of teachers and others who actually impact students every day. I apologize that I am not here to speak for myself as I am currently coaching because I made a commitment to my student athletes, but YSD did not commit to me.
Tim Walberg from Early Learning.
I will also be speaking on somebody's behalf who could not be here tonight. The decisions made by this board and Mr. Green are the antithesis of the oft-touted motto, Somos Uno, we are one. Specifically, I would like to address the disproportionate impact on our most vulnerable population of students, those who receive special education services from Yakima School District. I don't think any of you understand the extent of the ripple effects this is causing. Even though I have been told SPED teachers will be recalled, the fact that so many were ripped to begin with and therefore must go through the recall process is going to be extremely disruptive and is already causing several SPED teachers to look somewhere else for employment. As we are all aware, special education teachers have an extremely difficult job, one which takes years to develop the relationships and skills needed to best serve our students and families. Shortages and high turnover rates in special education have resulted in higher percentages of new teachers in these roles. Because of this, the RIF decision has affected our special educators, students, and families in greater numbers. At our school, special educators compose 40% of the reduction in force, even though we only represent 12% of the school's teachers. This statistic is especially heartbreaking, knowing that with the amount of prior knowledge the district had, that action could have been avoided, as exemplified by other districts up and down the valley who do not view their teachers as expendable commodities. Somos uno. The ripple effect of this action will be felt for years, no matter how much is done by educators left to pick up the pieces and mitigate the damage. When it comes to our most vulnerable, the district should put their money where their mouth is rather than in the pocket of our superintendent. Thank you.
Mike Clark.
This is from a third-year elementary teacher. Dear School Board, I am a third-year teacher affected by the RIF. I have attended many meetings, professional developments, trainings, and any opportunity I've had in order to continuously grow as an educator. During my first year, I would often sacrifice a day from my weekend to come into school to prepare for the week and would spend the following day lesson planning for the week. Although it was a lot of work and extremely overwhelming at times, I continued to push myself to earn a continuing contract after my third year. I thought it would all pay off, the countless hours of unpaid labor the teachers seemed to be expected to work, but I stayed optimistic. Since my first year, there have continued to be obstacles I have overcome, but I love this job and I'm currently studying to receive my master's degree. Being a teacher is not an easy profession, and I was aware of this going in. What made it all worth it was knowing that one day I would have a continuing contract. This RIF has affected me mentally, emotionally, and financially due to the fact I'm not guaranteed a position next year, which in turn has brought a great amount of stress. I'm expected to calmly wait around and see if maybe I'll be recalled after being told I will not have a job next year. I'm expected to mask my stress when I'm working with my students, and I'm constantly having to pretend like this is not happening during work hours. I'm not sure if I will be able to get the continuing contract I have worked so hard for since the beginning of my teaching career. Being a first-generation Hispanic university graduate from Yakima. Sorry. Okay. Being a first-generation Hispanic university graduate from Yakima, I have had my fair share of obstacles and challenges. Survival mode is not a new concept to me, and it is something I've worked extremely hard to get away from. Yet I find myself there again. The following messages would always be shared by school personnel. Your education will get you far. Your education can open many doors. Your education can help you break the cycle of poverty. You just have to work hard. This message pushed me through to earn my high school diploma, and it pushed me to earn my bachelor's while working full time. I had finally reached my goal of becoming an educator, and now it is being taken away from me, not due to a lack of work ethic, motivation, or disposition, but simply because of the careless mismanagement of funding, something I have no control over, something that could have been prevented had the community, educators, and students been the primary priority. Accountability needs to be taken, and I ask that you take into consideration the message that this decision sends to all of our community who work hard to give our future generations an equitable, quality education for their success. Thank you.
Jennifer Hernandez from Washington, D.C.
Good evening. I'm here to represent an employee that cannot be here, a member. Dear board members, I am devastated. I wish to remain anonymous because I'm going to be honest. There are multiple reasons why the devastation is so impactful. I will touch on just a few. One, I'm devastated because I'm a first-year teacher. I have poured my heart and soul into my classroom and the YSD community this year. I went from basic to proficient within a short period of time on the Danielson scale, and I am very proud of my accomplishments, only to be told I won't have a job. The effort, then the letdown, is hard to describe. 2, I'm devastated because I'm mourning for our students. I know I'm a good teacher, working on being great, a caring team member, and a hard worker for my school. I've made a connection with the hardest of kids and parents this year. I've taken kids who refused school last year and increased their attendance profoundly. I've taken the hardest parents and created a team between us. How is it in the best interest for our kids to cut me? 3, I'm devastated because as a person who values loyalty, as a district, you have shown me this is not something you value. I am disposable. It doesn't matter how much I prove to you that I'm all in, I'm competent, or that I'm a good employee, I still do not have a job. Lastly, I'm devastated because of how impeding financially burdened I am with a family of 6. I am so sad, a first-year teacher. From another member, I would like to remain anonymous, but would like my story to be shared. I have worked for YSD for 2 years now as a teacher, as a paraeducator for several more before that. This situation has shown to me that no matter how hard you work or how much work you put into the school you work for, the students around you and the relationships you build, your position is just a number. I have put in hours, days, and weeks into my profession, and yet none of that matters. I will miss my school and my students more than I can even put into words. The displacement due to the RIF is huge. I have to look at the grade levels of kids below me and around me and explain to them that I cannot be their teacher next year, as they had hoped for and expressed over and over, due to the choices out of my control. To keep my composure while I explain is very hard, because these kids rely so heavily on our ability as educators to provide stability. I am not just a number. I make a difference, and I know this. So please, YSD, please start taking this into consideration when making decisions that affect so much more than just the budget and just you. Thank you.
Yeah, that concludes our commenters for the first session. There are 3 commenters that are commenting on non-agenda items, and that will come later in the agenda. Thank you. Next up, we have consent agenda. On the consent agenda this evening are approval of personnel actions, approval of out of endorsement assignments, approval of the Ridgeview Community Facility interlocal agreement, and approval of the YVC and YV Tech interlocal agreement. Are there any of those items on the consent agenda that you wish to remove for the discussion? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we adopt the consent agenda as submitted.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion or question? Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next up, we have something we've all been working forward and looking forward to, and we have our patient student voice policy developers. Dr. Green, would you like to introduce this topic?
Yes, I'd like to call our fellows to the podium, if you please stand, and thank them for the diligent work in which they've been involved for multiple years. It has been quite a development and learning process, and I think if I were to speak for them, I don't know if I can. They have their own voice in this policy, but I would imagine that the wheels of policy development probably move a little bit slower than they would have thought coming into the development in the fellowship. But I also would acknowledge that the work that they have done by their predecessors and that they continue to do is something that is truly remarkable and has been acknowledged both at the state, regional, and national level. And I preface all of this because we know that in a discussion and a conversation that may be pending, there can always be adjustments and bumps along the way, but it's all in part of a process to direct policy and moving forward. So they did present 2 weeks ago and are back here this evening for the second reading, and the requested action at this time is the Board of Directors approves policy 0580, the student voice policy as presented as a new YSD policy. The background information I think has been amply shared previously. I would ask if any of you have any comments at this time before any board conversation. Okay, no? Yes, okay. Well, we thank you for being here. You can please go ahead and stay standing if you would, or have a seat, and we'll see where this goes and figure out if the policy is accepted or if there are further changes and adaptations. But again, I want to thank all four of you and those others who really paved the way for you in this development. And I look forward to its implementation pending this evening.
Thank you. Members of the board, we've had an opportunity for the first reading. We've had an opportunity to go through in more detail. Are there any other comments or questions that emerge in your process of reviewing your proposed policy? Dr. Becker.
Well, I would echo something that Superintendent Green said. I know a little something about the desire to close a deal, and I imagine that you're really ready to get this closed. Considering what is going on in our current state within the district, and having had the chance to go through this individually with your group and as a group on a couple of occasions, I have some concerns that stem from really what I see as the action items that are created within this. I've gone through the document. It looks like there are about 17 different action items that are created. Only I think about 6 or so are actually really under the purview of the board. So the rest of this comes down to building leadership and superintendent office leadership. What I'd like to suggest before we move forward with this is to, and I'll make this in the form of a motion, that we refer the policy to the superintendent's office for review of the included action items for their impact on budget and staff, and for our board to schedule a discussion of that review and a further discussion of this policy at the May board meeting.
And I would like to clarify just a little bit. I think the concerns had to do with work expectations on staff in the schools that are coming from this policy that don't affect the board, but does affect the workload of administrators. The question I would have from the group is, did you vet the policy fully with administrators within your building and have their support? Because there are items in the policy that do affect, in a sense, workload of your administrators. So I'm curious as to what kind of conversations or processes you had working with them.
Sorry, which one specifically?
Well, the action items that in the policy that have, in a sense, create workload issues for administrators in your building or staff in your building. Mm-hmm. And maybe Mr. Becker can clarify some of the 17 that you identified.
I think as a point of order, I'd suggest that before we discuss it, we should have a second to the motion. Otherwise, there's no point in having the discussion.
Oh, okay.
It's up to the board how we move forward from here.
So it's been moved to.
Can we restate the motion, please?
My motion was to refer the policy to the superintendent's office for review of the included action items and their impact on building budgets and staff, and for a board discussion to occur over a review of that at the May board meeting.
Okay, so it's been moved, but it has not yet been seconded.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded to defer this to the superintendent's office for further study. Any other discussion or question about that?
Yes, and the reason why I second that is because I do feel very uncomfortable with the
level of collaboration with the teachers union and also with principals, because the last meeting I heard that you have not met with teachers union, right? Is that still the case?
Just to clarify to everybody, we have had this presented to all staff in buildings. We have stated before in the last meeting that we had to sit down, me and Luana for Eisenhower because we go to the school, and we've had Andrea and Ezra who attend Davis. They've addressed it to the principals and staff members. There's been multiple occasions where it has been given the opportunity to go into farther depth. They did not need it. They did not clarify that they would want more. So we have already addressed to the people who wanted clarification, and they had already seen the policy. And as for the union, when we tried to have a conversation with them, we were told that we were not able to.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to defer. Barb, would you call the roll?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva, nay, President Walker.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2.
Thank you. Okay, so the ruling, the policy will be considered and moved to a later meeting in May. So thank you for your patience and for sitting through the whole meeting tonight. And I knew you were hopeful for a different outcome, but that's the way things work sometimes in policy development. So please stay patient and stay hopeful. We'll work out a policy.
May I follow up? Just a comment?
Yes.
Okay. You can go ahead and have a seat if you want and gather. I just, again, I want to thank our leaders for their development. And I know it sometimes stings when there's a delay like this, but I also want to just reaffirm that this is not a hard no. So this is another look at what we can do as far as analyze the policy around the financial impact given the current climate. And I'm very confident that we'll be able to come back and present something that is very satisfying to the board. So thank you again for your hard work and your patience. And again, just reiterating that this is not a hard no, it's a delay.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to approval for edits to the 1000 series policies. Chief Legal Counsel Bob No.
Thank you. You might recall that we reviewed the 1000 series policies at the last board retreat, and some suggested changes were made. So this is the attempt to capture all those changes. And I think we caught everything that the board had indicated wanted change. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to review it again and can approve, or otherwise let me know whether there are additional changes need to be made.
Questions or comments on the revisions that will reflect the results.
Anybody else have questions or comments? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept and publish the updated documents of the 1000 series that were presented to us in edited form.
Second. It's moved and seconded to approve the changes to the 1000 series policies. Any other question or discussion? Okay, Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva, aye, President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Next up, we have policy 6112, rental or lease of district real property. I believe this is a new policy. Again, Mr. No.
Thank you. this is the second reading of this policy. This is a policy that's modeled after the WASDA policy that would allow the district to make a determination that property is surplus. So if we have property that we're not using that could be rented, it allows us to do so. There's an RCW provision that requires the adoption of a policy by the board. And then if we're going to go forward with leasing any space, the RCW also requires that we provide a 45-day notice to the public that the space is available. So we're asking that the policy be put in place so that we have the opportunity to take a look at our properties and potentially put some of that up for lease to try to get some income through that process. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board at this point? Do I hear a motion?
I move that we adopt policy OP 6112, rental or lease of district real property.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve adoption of policy OP 6112. Any other questions or discussion from the board? Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. And related to that, authorization to move forward with publishing potential lease of district surplus property. Mr. No.
Thank you again. So dovetailing with that policy, we would like authorization from the board to allow the superintendent's office to start looking at the potential of leasing some surplus office space. We're still in the process of looking at our office needs, and there could potentially be some office space that is available. We'd like authorization to explore that opportunity and to also get a market valuation for what the square footage, the going rate for square footage on office space is. And then if we get to the point where we think we can advertise, we'd like to move forward with the 45-day advertising period. And then, of course, any lease agreement we may try to negotiate or come to fruition would have to come back to the board for approval. So we're just asking for authorization to start the process at this point.
Any other questions from the board? We had some prior discussion on this issue before. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move that authorization be granted to move forward with publishing potential lease of district surplus property as submitted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize moving forward with publishing lease policy or moving forward with the potential lease opportunities. Any other questions or comments from the board? Barb, call the roll, please.
Director Beckett,
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.,
Aye.
Director Rice,
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva,
Aye.
President Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We've now arrived at our second opportunity for public comment. There are 3 people signed up to comment. This is on items not on the agenda. First up, we have Angela Ponce. Is Angela still here?
Few years ago, I had a viable desired skill set and I felt excited when 2 leaders in district approached me about working in their building. I truly believe leadership when they said a bilingual biliterate teacher is worth 2. Una persona que es bilingüe y biletrada vale por 2. Now that I'm RIF, that doesn't feel so true. Yet I see how much the dual language program has on students who are working toward being multilingual. I get excited to see students growing in their languages. Goal for the YSD Compass bilingual biliterate by graduation made me believe that it was important too. Hiring bilingual/biliterate teachers who are passionate about the students they serve, the community in which they work are hard to find. But here I am on the RIF list, not feeling valued for the skills and assets I have brought on YSD. I feel frustrated by all this, not only for my current students, but past students who stop by and see me. The financial burden this has placed on my family is negatively impacting me too, because I have a sister who is disabled that hasn't allowed my parents to work, so my income doesn't just support me. It helps provide for my parents, my spouse, and extended family living with me. While your calculated error of what our student enrollment and funding would be like is just a oops, I made a mistake to you, but to me it has a devastating impact. Somos uno o no somos uno.
Thank you. Holly Packer, Yakima Online.
I'm Holly Packer. I'm a special ed teacher at Yakima Online, and I come tonight to bring some attention to maybe some of the more significant changes brought on by the merger of Yakima Online and Open Doors with Stanton. The first change that's quite significant is that our staff of 28 has been reduced to 8. We still have a student body of 700. Those 20 staff members possess a highly unique skill set specific to the virtual academic experience. They have designed their own job descriptions to meet the state mandated criteria for ALE and meet the needs of our student body. The second change that's a significant change is the Yakima Online and Open Doors program will be physically moved to across town to the Stanton building. In a student questionnaire, 80% of our students express their desire to keep the program the way that it is. This includes maintaining the integrity of our teaching model outlined by OSPI. We expressed our need for an environment more conducive to the requirements of the online model. The physical space and layout provided by Stanton does not appear to be compatible with our current program. And then I kind of have some information from last time. Mr. Cooper brought up that Washington State has lost 60,000 public students to homeschooling and to other alternative learning environments. He also stated that the trend is expected to continue, and we are predicting and budgeting for the continued decrease in student enrollment. Those statistics also say that we can predict that Yakima Online and Open Doors enrollment will continue to increase because the students are going to alternative learning environments. They're not going to private schools or other. Anyways. Mr. Beckett also proposed the question that where are students going? Low birth rate is a contributing factor, but it's not the only one. Nationwide, a vast majority of families are choosing to homeschool their children utilizing a virtual curriculum. Those families state the main reason for leaving the public school system is because the traditional learning setting is not working for their children for a variety of reasons. And so I bring this up, I bring this to your attention because Yakima Online is outperforming other online schools in the Valley and Pacific Northwest. We've provided data from our Edgenuity and from around the nation about how we're outperforming. It is earning the school district money by keeping students who would otherwise be lost and attracting those from other districts.
Thank you. Next up, we have Yaritzi Rodriguez from Google.
Hello, my name is Yuritsi Rodriguez. I'm a teacher at Hoover Elementary. 2 years ago, I began my journey as a kinder dual language teacher. I entered the field with many dreams and goals. I had the dream of developing and growing professionally, striving to become a great teacher for all the students, and being the teacher that I wish I had as a child. I signed a 3-year contract that stated I had to remain in a dual program for 3 years. Without thinking twice, I signed the contract because my dream was to teach in a dual program. I firmly believe that this program is the best for our multilingual students. In these 2 years, I have realized how many parents are involved in their child's education and want to support their child in their learning, including their homework. This is something that I never had growing up because my parents only spoke Spanish and the assignments were all in English. The Yakima School District sold me a story telling me that the YSD was the best district I could be a part of because they know how to take care of their teachers, students, and families. Today, I don't know if it's true. Today, I only know that I'm leaving with my dreams shattered and great disappointment. Someday, I hope to recover the faith I had in the Yakima School District leaders in the future. Please do not play with the dedication, excitement, and hearts of teachers who are to come after me.
Thank you. And that concludes our public comments for the evening. We have 2 more items in policy governance. Policy 1000.2.1, treatment of students and their parents and guardians. Mr. Cooper.
Good evening, everybody. This policy has been provided to you in advance and provided in your packet. All the elements in the policy are in compliance. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. It's a due pass recommendation for administration.
Any questions or comments from the board? Do I hear a motion?
This is coming to us for evaluation and Survey Monkey on the monitoring report, right?
That's correct.
So we don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion yet. It'll come to us by survey and we'll comment. Okay. So no questions for Mr. Cooper. We'll move on to the next agenda item. An approval for 1000.1.0 ends goal number 2. And that was the report we received from Mr. Santoy. And the results of the survey were 2 votes, superintendent is compliant, 3 votes, superintendent is making adequate progress. I don't see any detailed comments. Is there anyone that wished to comment on any of the votes?
I appreciate that we're not solely relying on the data that comes from OSPI. I appreciate that we're also looking at our own recording system, Skyward. I think Skyward provides us with a more realistic look at what our attendance really is and doesn't base it on a whole day or a half day. It's period by period. And I think that's the focus that we should have when we're talking about student attendance.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions about the results of this? Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval of the monitoring report for 1000.1.0 Goal 2.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the report for 1000.1.0 Goal 2. Any other questions or comments? Barb, would you call the roll, please?
Director Beckett?
Aye.
Director Navarro Jr.?
Aye.
Director Rice?
Aye.
Vice President Villanueva? Aye. President Walker?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you all. Dr. Green and Mr. Noah, is there a need for executive session this evening?
Not at this time. Nothing that can't wait for another date.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, information for the good of the order? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.